So the next panel is one that I personally am very excited for. It will be led by Michael Gord, who is one of the founders here at the GDA group of companies. Mike personally has been involved in over $500 million of digital asset raises and has helped capitalize over $5 billion of assets for digital asset companies. I'm very excited to have him lead the next panel discussion, which is centered around developing and scaling the next unicorn. We'll be hearing from both future and past unicorn entrepreneurs who are pushing boundaries and taking disruptive technology to market. Some of which are again focused on the digital asset ecosystem that we participate in on a day-to-day basis. Without further ado, Mike, would be great for you to start to introduce your panel members as we just add them here for one moment.
Thanks for the introduction, Zach. So I see Raoul has joined first. And everyone on our panel is a serial entrepreneur. Everyone has had many successful business ventures and are and also have run multiple businesses at the same time. So this will be a very interesting discussion from a global audience, or from a global group of panelists that have lots of experience with building and scaling disruptive businesses. So Raoul has previously founded and exited businesses. He built his first website when he was 13. He had his first exit when he was 23. And now he runs Boatsters, which I believe is the largest boating company focused on the super yacht niche in the Mediterranean, and is the founder and CEO of Elydium, which is focused on the luxury market and also putting billions of dollars of luxury traditional assets onto the blockchain. So Raoul, thank you for joining. I see Al. Al is also a serial entrepreneur, is an international business person and investor. Al was previously the founder of Console Connect, where he raised tens of millions of dollars and ultimately exited that a few years ago, which commenced his journey into the blockchain and digital asset industry. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Al for the past few years and now working alongside Al with Digital Bits. So thank you, Al, for joining. And we have Bartholomew, who's an avid believer in disruptive technologies. Bartholomew is also a serial entrepreneur and has started and led several projects, always with a disruptive technology focus. So ever since 2014, Bartholomew has been focused on the digital asset world, where he's now the founder and CEO of Zignally, which has grown to over 40,000 users and has over $25 million in AUM. So welcome, Bartholomew. And then I see James is also here. So James is an international businessman, investor, and serial entrepreneur. He's currently the founder of the Eco Capacity Exchange, which is a disruptive, game-changing enterprise that connects enterprises and governments to unlock new sources of credit for their abundance of available capacity for their businesses. Previously, James was the founder of Home Grocer, which was the first company in the world to use the internet for grocery shopping, which he sold or which he exited in a merger transaction for over $1 billion. So welcome, James. So everyone here has a lot of experience building businesses and businesses in different industries as well, and in different niches. So I think to start, it would be great to get some perspective on how you consider what business you're going to start, how you get inspired to have a vision of something that you want to solve or something you want to do, and then how you go about starting. And maybe James, you mentioned that you had a significant focus on vision, and when we met in Dubai, you were talking about how you spent years doing market research to understands the problem of excess capacity for businesses and how you're going to introduce a solution to the market. So maybe if you could start the discussion there, that'd be great. I guess we will we'll continue with James. Al, you wanna start and go into what's required for a vision and how you have a vision for what you're trying to build, and go about starting?
Certainly. Well, thanks for the intro. I hope everyone can hear me okay. So my name is Al Burgio. I've been a serial entrepreneur for quite some time. And I think what I would say is that, each time I think it's very important to really identify an opportunity that really addresses a large scale problem. And with that, for there to be a mass market opportunity, not for just yourself as an entrepreneur, but really around that future team that's going to really become a part of that journey, and the investors that are going to ideally be there to support that vision. And so it's something that doesn't necessarily come in a moment. It's a process, and once you've sort of went through that process and really well defining that vision, that opportunity, then you really start to have something once you are able to see the reaction of others resonating around that vision and wanting to be a part of that journey.
Great, thanks, Al. And James, I see that you're back now. And just to ask the question again, I'm not sure whether you heard the whole thing, but if I understand correctly, yeah, great. So yeah, it would be awesome to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, sorry that I for some reason couldn't get on the audio, but it seems like it's working now. So yeah, vision. Look, I can't even begin to tell you how important it is. And our experience was, we kind of wandered for about 5 years, if you can believe it, doing some fascinating research, and we kept pivoting from one bunch of research to another, and we were looking at this whole world of non-financial trade, and it happens in so many different ways, from barter trade to reciprocal trade to counter trade and offset trade. And each time we'd get stuck into a new pivot about digging in and still really unclear about ultimately what we were trying to do. When we finally got enough insights, and vision doesn't necessarily come immediately out of the gate, because it does require insights to really even be able to think forward about what could be possible. Because at the end of the day, the vision is really not something you may ever achieve, but it is the guiding light. It's kind of, I like the analogy of a lighthouse, that you don't really ever want to go there with the boat because you don't want to hit the lighthouse, but it's always there to allow you to move the rudder and in the direction of the lighthouse. But not only you, but all of the members on the team. So the lighthouse serves as the beacon that keeps everyone moving in the right direction. So we finally crystallized on a vision that was really very much about a social purpose initiative, that we wanted to improve the conditions of the world by enabling a better utilization of an immense amount of capacity that exists in the world, and it's abundant in everywhere. I mean, pre-COVID, every company, every country has abundances of capacity. Post-COVID, it's on steroids. And so we thought, can we improve the conditions of the world by simply bringing tech to create marketplace structures that enable that capacity to be populated into a global exchange, so it can be identified and communicate and transact and settle it. But the really key innovation for us was, in order to do that, you got to have a medium of exchange unless you want to try and figure out how to just sort everything out one to many and many to one, very difficult. And so the last part of our vision was really, you've got to introduce a medium of exchange that is more inclusive, more equitable, and more trustworthy. And so when we crystallized on that vision, boy, oh boy, the whole army lined up and everything just kind of moved in the right direction. So hugely important.
Very cool. So I'm keen to go deeper into into the next steps after you have a clear vision to mobilize the team. But I'm keen to hear from Raoul and Bart. So Bart, you're, I guess, with all of your past businesses have been in disruptive technology. So when you're starting a new business, how do you consider exactly what it is you're starting and understand the need in the market, and then start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me here. I think, of course, the vision is super important. It's the thing that, as James says, is the lighthouse of the team. Everybody look at it, so everybody knows where we are going, and everybody is aligned. But I think the first thing that we need to know, it has to be clear for us, is the why. I'm pretty sure that everybody here knows the golden circle from Simon Sinek. And the first thing that it needs to be clear for us is why we are doing this. Why do we want to do a better place of the world? Do we want to bring water to some place that don't have water? Do we want? Why are we doing this? So once we have this clear, we can envision where we are going. We can transmit this vision. And another thing that I think is very, very important is, okay, sometimes happens that you have your vision and it's in your mind, but it has not to be only in your mind. You have to be transparent, and you have to share your vision, and everybody needs to know your vision, and not only inside the team, even outside of your team, because if the world, if your community knows where you are going, later, if you need somebody to join your team and you look for this inside your community, you are going to have you are going to take advantage of people who are aligned, who are already aligned with your vision. So I think it's important to know the why, and also to be transparent with your team and with your community.
Yeah, very good perspective. The why is super important, and also communicating that to your team, to your investors, and to the community, so everyone understands where it is you want to go, so they can help if they can. And then Raoul, how about yourself? Getting into blockchain, I guess before Boasters, you were building applications and disruptive technology. But how do you, when you're starting a new business, how do you consider what you're starting and consider that it's a big enough need?
Well, first of all, I do agree with Bart as well. It's about the why, right? Because you want to either solve a problem, or you need to solve a problem, right? Because without solving a problem solution, then you don't have a real product. So that's one thing. You want to understand the market, and you can impact in that particular part of the business. But on the other hand, what I think is also important when creating that vision, it's an ongoing development in the beginning of creating that vision, because you have a crazy idea and you know how to tackle it. It's in your head, and then you start to talk with the people in your team. You talk to potential customers or competitors, and it starts to develop. And at one point you feel it. You're like, okay, this is it, right? You have. And you know where you're going to be in 10 years. But there the complex part comes, because now you need to inspire your people, and now you need to make it more simple and more, how do you say, make it more concrete in form of in steps, right? You want to create these block stones while you already know what kind of building you're going to build. So I think from a vision perspective, mindset is very important. Like the bigger, the better. But on top of that, then, working with your team and explaining that vision, turning that into a mission is a challenge, but super doable when you work with certain programs and methods and models like I used to do in all my companies and still do today. And one more thing about the whole vision and why I think you should always think unlimitless is that because the crazier your vision and the bigger your idea that's why you will attract people that will eventually become your team members. That's also why we met Michael, GDA in Lithium, and why we met Shahal, who was in the panel before, that if you have this crazy vision, it will come on your path, right? So that's kind of my learning, that nothing is too big and everything is possible. And you just have to, at one point from your crazy ideas, you have to make them concrete and put them into actionables and make sure that the people around you, that they understand. And you can easily do that. There's many ways. You can also make it visual. You can work on presentations. There's many ways how you can finally turn that vision into an actionable method. But yeah, I learned a lot from these different methods by implementing certain models, and it always works really well.
Michael, if I could add to that, I agree in terms of the alignment of sort of building blocks. Once you get past vision and once you start to build your organization, that team, 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, hundreds of people within an organization, it boils down to the ability to really operationalize or execute, right? And so bringing together like-minded people and to join an organization, but we're talking across various different departments. Depending on the nature of the company, if there's technology involved, you have engineering, in other words, a software organization, you have finance, you have business development, sales, operations, and so forth, and marketing and what have you. And so you have ideally a group of individuals, part of a company, equally passionate, bringing unique skill sets to the table. And then when you're looking to really operationalize and go out and build something great, everybody's going to want to have some input, and everyone's going to have some great ideas on what do you do first, what do you do second, and there's challenges sometimes there, right? And I think one of the key importances of really bringing that forward to making sure that vision can become a reality, even though it is something that is perhaps way out in the future, it's not necessarily built overnight. You kind of have to bring down this 5 or 10 year or whatever plan and break it down. I like to consider it steps, a staircase. In other words, you have the long-term plan, but there's the various steps as an organization that you need to take. And really, I think this is very important to build something that can scale, because sometimes you can, with pursuing success, you could trip. And again, to use the analogy of a staircase, if you don't make it to the next step, you hit a wall. And sometimes in an early stage organization where capital is important, you don't necessarily have all the capital that you've needed to raise day one. You may need to go back to achieve some milestones and go out and raise an additional capital. But you need to demonstrate that you're pursuing towards that vision, achieving some very important milestones. And in order to do that, the team has to be aligned. And I think that, often challenges I may see, you have people, let's say, passionate in biz dev and saying, we need to add these level of features first because we're hearing from customers or the market that these are important. And engineering may have a different perspective on what needs to be done first. Of course, they're building the product and they feel very passionate about the sequence of things. The reality, though, is if there isn't that alignment across the team, you will hit that wall. And so it's very important, I think, to use simple analogies, something like a staircase, to say, okay, here's the milestones we want to all achieve, with the next step, right? And that may be collectively, we all want to see more capital raised. In an early stage company, that's perhaps one of the key objectives. And so everybody understanding that as one of the key milestones and saying, okay, what do we need to demonstrate by X period of time in this current phase? It's maybe not building this other feature that's going to maybe be 3 years out. It's really about these sets of requirements that we can achieve within that particular phase, demonstrate actionable results, actual achievements, and accomplish that victory in that moment, which is get it to the next step, right? And then you're off to the next step and the next step. So it's really important to bring vision at times really down into the moment across an organization in a very simple manner. I think using analogies like a staircase or building blocks is very important because you can't always be speaking every day in terms of what we're going to accomplish in 10 years. You have to bring focus to an organization while maintaining that broader vision, but bringing focus so that people across an organization, and this is fundamental, because if you cannot climb each step, again, you will hit that wall, right? As an organization, if it's time-based and you're under certain time constraints to do this in a period of time. And I think that brings alignment across an organization when they understand the dependencies and how it's very important to work together, really channel that passion that everybody has across the organization because they're there, because they believe in this common vision. Of course, everybody needs to be heard, but alignment is important. And then I think you start to develop a greater appreciation and respect within an organization. And if you can do that, you will succeed at executing in bringing, again, that vision to reality and scale something both domestically and globally over time.
So we just got a couple more minutes. This has been a great discussion so far. We've touched on the why and why that's important, understanding why you want to go somewhere, and then understanding where you're going to go, and the bigger the better. I agree with you guys. And then you need to inspire your team and start to hit milestones, as Al just mentioned. Maybe Bartholomew, if you could talk about what's required to start to scale globally, access a global audience, a global user base, and start to actually build up your metrics. And then perhaps James, if we could hear your perspective on ultimately getting an exit or when to exit and how to exit, that would be great.
So I can agree more with all about having the vision as the North Star metric of the company, but we need to be realistic. We want to be the number one in wherever, but we need to be realistic and we need to give steps one by one. And I think the best step or the most important thing is we need to work with the transparency. We need to explain to the team what we want to accomplish in this quarter, in this month, in this week, whatever is our time frame. And then everybody has to participate in brainstorming what we are going to do to achieve this goal, this objective. We use, for example, OKR, the methodology from Inter, and is super used by Google and all his startups, and all the company participate in this OKR. We brainstorm the key result that we are going to use for measuring if the objective has been achieved or not. So this is a way that we do. And then you need to do one thing that sometimes happens is that you plan a lot, but then you forgot about what you just said. And you need to keep following what you planned. So we say that we are going to do this. We need to meet week by week, month by month, and we need to review if we are in the track with this key result that we have established, or we are not. If there is a problem, how we can fix it. So we need to follow up the objective that we established for the quarter, for the month.
Thanks, Bart. So we've just got one more minute. I see Zach's gonna cut us off in a sec, but James, if you could provide a concluding perspective, and both in terms of this discussion as well as the conclusion of the business creation path,
Sure.
To an exit, when and how.
Okay, in 1 minute. Okay, so first of all, look, I think good discussion, certainly vision. is a huge part of getting people aligned. It's the first step. Then having, detailed and comprehensive engagement, alignment around a plan, how you're going to get there and the milestones, of course. And then, thinking about disruption. Look, disruption is very different depending on what you're disrupting. When I founded Home Grocer, we were disrupting something simple, grocery shopping, and taking it out of the horrendous effort that it was into a home delivery business. It was very simple. In 2.5 years, we built a company that was almost $3 billion in value and did an IPO, very quick exit. The one I'm doing now is very, very different. It's disrupting something much bigger. It's global monetary system disruption. And it's been 22 years in development. And the exit is not going to be an IPO, because we think the better exit in this particular case is going to be through selling the equity to the users over time and doing a kind of distributed ownership that much more aligned with what blockchain is capable of doing. And so in every situation, it's going to be slightly different, but always go forward with trying to keep every option open. So this enterprise we're involved with now, we have the ability to go public, we have the ability to do a private sale. So you've got to conduct yourself from a financial and legal compliance and management standpoint to have as many options as available to as you possibly can. And I think that would be my closing comment. And so thank you very much, Michael and the other panelists for this opportunity to join you and participate.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the discussion. And yeah, I look forward to continuing the conversation.